Notre Dame 27, Indiana 17. Notre Dame moves on to play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which is going to be a really fun game, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't know why some people are kind of surprised by the outcome. Maybe not necessarily the outcome, but the start of this game and seeing Notre Dame pull away. And this score is not a true representation of how the game was played. Notre Dame dominated Indiana before they had those late scores. This game, Notre Dame, Indiana, and just like Ohio State, Indiana, you just see the giant talent gap that exists between these teams. Let's start with the 24/7 Sports 2024 College Football Team Talent Composite Rankings. Basically, this just gives you a look at the star power on your team, the recruiting rankings. I understand stars don't mean everything, but this is just one data set you can look at that tells you what kind of star power that you have on your team. And we're going to talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame just because these are the two teams that are on a similar level playing field. Ohio State is number 3. They have 14 5-stars, 55 4-stars, only behind Alabama and Georgia. Notre Dame is in the top 10. They have 1 5-star, 57 4-stars. They're 9th. And then to find Indiana, you got to scroll all the way down to, I think it's 57th. No 5-stars, 10 4-stars, 57 3-stars. We also know this Indiana team is only under year 1 of Kirk Cignetti. They've used a transfer portal to bring in some guys. They brought in a lot of guys over from JMU along with Kirk Cignetti in the transfer portal. But even just looking at, you could use the eye test. At the Ohio State-Indiana game, Urban Meyer said, just look at the players in the field. Look at the size difference. You can just see the difference in the athlete. That was prevalent in Columbus in November, and that was prevalent here in South Bend, Indiana. This game just came down to the talent was too much for Indiana to really compete in this game, and so it's not surprising at all to see Notre Dame basically blow out this Indiana team. And yeah, the 10-point score isn't really the best representation. Good for Indiana for fighting back and not giving up. Notre Dame had stepped off the gas a little bit when they went up 27-3. But let's talk Notre Dame. Notre Dame is rolling right now. They have NFL dudes all over that side of the roster. I know I've said that a lot this year, but it's true. They're making plays. Xavier Worthy is all over the place. Obviously, he's a stud, All-American, going to be a first-round pick. He has, 6 or so interceptions on the year. The guy wrecks games. He makes plays. He finds the ball finds him. Their defense is playing very, very well. On offense, they're doing exactly what they want to do. They're establishing the run. Jeremiah Love can show that he can make guys miss. He's stiff-arming guys into the ground. He's jumping over guys. He's got the breakaway speed, 98 yards. Riley Leonard can run the ball when he's asked, but also he can throw the ball. And it's interesting with Riley Leonard passing because it feels like he's locked in with this Notre Dame coaching staff, and he does exactly what they need him to do in the pass game to keep the ground game doing what it's doing and keeping guys honest. Riley Leonard, now I was thinking about this, I don't think he's a bad quarterback, and I don't think he can't throw the ball downfield, but it feels like that's not his strength. And it also feels like that's not what Notre Dame wants Riley Leonard to do. But he's just, he's taking what's in front of him. He's executing the game plan. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he's going to hit this next level as a quarterback. I've always just had questions about that down the field passing, pushing the ball downfield and being explosive in the pass game. And then literally the very next play, and this was in the fourth quarter, he gets pressure in the pocket, steps up, and delivers a beautiful deep ball over the middle in stride. And now Notre Dame finds themselves on the 1-yard line. So that's just part of that development, and that's also that skill set that you can see under Riley Leonard where, that's not really Notre Dame's game. They don't always want to do that. Of course, they're going to take their shots when it's there. But Riley being able to hit those throws on top of Notre Dame's ability to run the ball well with both their running backs and with Riley Leonard, this is a Notre Dame team you do not want to see in the playoff. They're clicking. They're playing well. The defense gets after you. The offense is running the football. They're playing Georgia. I'm not doing a Georgia-Notre Dame breakdown right now, but my goodness, I'm kind of leaning Notre Dame in that matchup. And again, I'm not making a pick right now, but Notre Dame might go on a serious run right now. And if you're any other team in the playoff, Notre Dame is dangerous, and you don't want to play them. I do want to touch on Indiana. Great year for the Hoosiers. Kirk Cignetti, maybe their best football season in school history. First 10-win season in school history. First year under Cignetti. This was the ceiling for how good this season could have gone. I don't think anyone inside that program actually thought that best case scenario this season, what's our ceiling? 10 wins and make the playoff. I don't think anyone truly could have said that. Maybe Signetti truly thought that that was possible for this team, and he gets a ton of credit for how they've performed. But this was an awesome year for them. You go on a run and make the playoff, which you weren't supposed to do. You're a basketball school. You're bad at football. They have the most losses in FBS history. You bring in a new head coach and you make the first ever 12-team playoff. It's crazy. They made the playoff. Bama didn't. Michigan didn't. It's wild. They don't have talent. They did a really good job bringing in who they could and putting out a product on the field that was as good as it can be. But again, like we just talked about with the talent thing, I mean, they just couldn't compete with the big dogs. Even though, yes, they weren't supposed to win in the playoff at all, you could say that they could play loose, they could play with house money. All of that is true, but just the talent was too much to handle. I will say this, looking ahead to this matchup in the Sugar Bowl with Georgia and Notre Dame, I mean, that is going to be a ton of fun. Georgia's going to be without Carson Beck, we know that. Georgia, clearly up and down, they're vulnerable. Their offense really is nothing to write home about. Will it be good enough to win them a game? We'll see. I think it can be, but, we'll have to see. God, maybe they'll be even better with Carson Beck not playing, considering how bad Carson Beck has looked at points this year. But that is certainly a winnable game for Notre Dame. And if Notre Dame somehow gets past Georgia and they move on to the semis, they would play the winner of the Boise State, and I'm going to guess Penn State. So whoever SMU and Penn State wins that game, they'll play Boise State round 2. I'm guessing it's going to be a Penn State-Boise State game. Penn State moves on. You could get like a Penn State Notre Dame semifinal. That would be a lot of fun. 2 northern teams, 2 northern brands. But again, Notre Dame can win that game. So I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. And of course, they're the first team to win a game in the 12-team playoffs. So you're going to feel good if you're a Notre Dame fan. But there's a legit path here for Notre Dame to kind of go on a run and win a few games here and maybe make their way into the national championship game or maybe the Final Four.